Hello friends, welcome to the new episode of Hammurabi Tablet. Today we have with us Advocate Tejas Bhat and he will be addressing on a topic the emotionally intelligent lawyer in the era of AI, that is artificial intelligence. So it's a very nice niche and a new topic which Mr. Bhatt will handle. So now I first welcome Mr. Bhatt for being our guest.
Thank you.
And I would request you to commence with your topic as to, because we are also equally eager to know this topic, emotionally intelligent lawyer, AI, all that.
Correct.
Please.
Correct. So first of all, hello friends, and before I begin, a big thank you to you for two things. First, because your series that you have under the caption or under the banner, under the channel Hammurabi Tablet is very instructive, it's very interesting, and I'm very happy to know that we are discovering a lot of homegrown talent and even the legends of the law that otherwise we were not knowing. So what I like about you is the way you dive deep down and find these pearls for us that we get to view on YouTube. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So yes, the topic for today is the emotionally intelligent lawyer in the age of artificial intelligence.
Yes.
It's actually a very fun topic because the reason is today you are surrounded by artificial intelligence everywhere.
Correct.
Your latest laptops also that are now being released in 2024 are AI compliant. You already have Meta installed on your WhatsApp. You already have Google Gemini that is offering you services. And of course, everyone knows ChatGPT. A lot of people use it to improve their writing final product of what they've written. So with so much of AI, generative artificial intelligence, what is happening is that technology is getting better and better, and I visualize a day when, well, it would be a debatable point, but I visualize a day when at least some aspects of the legal work that lawyers do might just get replaced by AI. Right now, AI is supplementing what lawyers are doing. It helps you to churn out a great agreement in a couple of minutes once you put in your basic facts. It improves a bad draftsman's legal draft. So even the most mediocre of draftsmen suddenly churns out a wonderfully looking document. And so far as non-litigation is concerned, it's helping in a lot. I've known lawyers using it even for legal research, which I think is a pitfall. But that's a separate, that's a discussion on for another day. So AI is everywhere, and as we go towards a situation where it becomes more pervasive, the only thing that AI lacks today and is going gradually towards that is what I call fake intimacy. Now, what do I mean by fake intimacy?
Yeah.
So AI is now beginning with the latest strides that AI has made. AI is also talking back to you, conversing with you, has the ability to converse with you. And so finally AI is now beginning to sound like a human. We already have virtual assistants. You don't need a receptionist to pick up the phone. That already happens if you have the necessary software involved. And that AI will then have a conversation with the client and be able to guide them based on the inputs that have already been given. So you already have that. So AI is reaching that stage where it's beginning to, where it does sound like a human. It generates images for you, it generates text for you, and therefore that question that often came to my mind is, where will this lead for the legal profession?
Okay.
What happens to lawyers in a traditional sense? While I don't, of course, as of now see a threat for litigation lawyers because they are in a courtroom setting, I begin to wonder what happens to lawyers who are in a non-litigation or in an advisory capacity. Not that they will be replaced, but yeah, that's something to look forward to. I don't look at it with trepidation. I look at it with a lot of interest and Yes, something that the future will hold. And so the question comes in, how does the lawyer in such a situation become, or can the lawyer afford to still remain indispensable? And so the answer for me comes from the fact that, comes actually from the fact of a pitfall that I have often noticed, in that I do not see a lot of lawyers displaying emotions with clients. Now, what do I mean when I say that? For a lot of lawyers, the client is a bundle of legal problems to be solved or to be fitted within the matrix of the law, for which the lawyer gets paid for his services, and that's about it. The human element that the lawyer is supposed to bring, the emotional comfort that a lawyer must give to a client to be able to elicit the right instructions, to be able to prepare that client for, say, examination in chief or cross examination in court, the hand holding that should happen during a long litigation process, since cases take a long time to get completed, that I feel has been missing, and that led me to this whole thing of the emotionally intelligent lawyer, because according to me that forms the basic fulcrum of how a good lawyer should be, or how a great lawyer can be. So what is emotional intelligence from a legal, for a lawyer? Well, of course, it's the ability to recognize one's emotions, to understand them, and to manage those emotions. You do this not only with yourself, you also do this so far as the client is concerned. We see this playing out. You're a litigation lawyer yourself. You see this when you are cross-examining a witness. His body language, his hesitation when he gives an answer to one of your questions, which leads you to take a split-second decision of whether you should be going in that direction and continuing your line of cross-examination. What you are displaying at that point of time are elements of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence would be, as I said, the first of course of these would be empathy. And empathy for your client's legal problem, the human touch. A lot of the people that I have spoken to have often told me that somehow I don't feel that my lawyer understands me or understands my problem. For my lawyer, my case is just a legal case. It's not that. It's pain and suffering for me. But he or she doesn't seem to understand that. You see this, a lot of this, you see this at play a lot in, say, domestic violence cases, family cases, individuals who are fighting against corporations, where you have an individual involved. So empathy. Second would be effective communication and skills, to be able to convey to your client what is it that you really need to tell the client. Now this is again a great thing. So if you, when you evaluated your client's case and you find that he or she may have, say for example, a 50-50 chance, the emotionally intelligent lawyer should ideally give them that correct, true picture. Instead of saying, don't worry, ho jayega, we will win. No giving of false assurances, no giving of or making promises that you cannot deliver. So therein comes the lawyer's, when I say honesty, I mean honesty in dealing with his clients, of being real, of not being fake. Artificial intelligence will say all the right things to you, but those are nuanced things. The artificial intelligence doesn't feel, not yet.
You cannot judge the emotions of clients.
Yes, they cannot judge the emotions of the clients. Many a times, and if you judge the emotions of the clients, you might also end up getting the motivations that have led them to do or not to do certain things, which again impacts your evaluation of your case, which impacts your perhaps line of evidence that you would like to lead, and which also impacts the advice that the client is really looking forward to. Right? So that was one. Then the third thing, aspect of emotional intelligence, that I think is being self-aware. That is, having control on one's own emotion. You have a bad day in court. You don't take it out on your client. You don't try to cover up. You let them know what happened and you tell them that on the next date of hearing, we'll go better prepared. You don't see that happening. You find the lawyer, not all, some of them, making excuses, attributing intentions or motives to the other side, to somebody else, whatever.
Accept the reality and go ahead.
Accept the reality and look at course correction.
Okay.
Which means you need to be honest with yourself, you need to be honest with the client as well. Trust me, the client is going to appreciate that a lot more than really looking at only a victory in court. Yes, the victory matters to every client, but what is going to really change the script for any individual lawyer is the fact that they are able to connect with the client on an emotional level. Now, does this mean that you identify with your client? No, it's going too far.
Yeah.
You don't do that. So, emotional intelligence is that fine, nuanced balance where you get under the skin of the client, where you walk around in that skin, and then you are able to judge the situation and the legal analysis that would follow in a better perspective.
Okay.
Now, why did I use the words get under the skin? Because I was suddenly reminded of this book, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which was also made in a movie starring Gregory Peck. And the protagonist of this book and this movie is a very upright lawyer called Atticus Finch. And he's a widower and he's raising 2 small children. So, while being a lawyer, he is also trying to give lessons in ethics to his 2 kids. So, on one of those occasions, he tells his daughter that you cannot really effectively represent a client unless you have walked in his skin. And then his daughter realizes the importance of that lesson when subsequently later on in the book, she actually experiences it and learns empathy for herself. What he was teaching her was empathy.
Okay.
Right? It's a great book. It's a great book to read, for all budding lawyers at least. I think it's one of the books that should be read. It's one of the movies that should be seen if you're not much of a reader. But that's what essentially it boils down to.
Okay.
Now, if you are an emotionally intelligent lawyer, does that sort of cripple you because all the time you're dealing with emotions? Anyway, as a lawyer's life is a very burdensome life. You have not only your own problems, you're also carrying the burdens and the troubles of your own clients. So it's not a very happy place to be in if you look at it that way. But therein, this is where the emotionally intelligent lawyer becomes a person who is able to balance these various needs and requirements that are expected out of him.
Okay.
So that's basically the need for a lawyer to tap into this aspect of his or her personality, to connect with the client and to thereafter present the case in court.
Okay.
So I think that helps you most importantly even to figure out and find out those missing links in a case. So to give an example, there was a medical negligence case in which a doctor was charged under section 338 of the IPC. A patient, a small child in a nursing home had died.
Okay.
This doctor was the accused. It so transpired during I won't name the lawyer, but it so transpired during the taking of the instructions that this doctor was not the treating doctor. In fact, he was only a visiting consultant.
Okay.
The patient was admitted under some other doctor. The nursing home had its own staff, etc. The patient did not even die because of the line of treatment. The patient died because the nursing home did not have oxygen which was required when the patient health started deteriorating.
Okay.
And that was the cause of death. For 18 long years, this prosecution went on. And it is only when the last lawyer came into the picture, because lawyers also got changed to them, when the last lawyer, and spoke to this doctor, had heart-to-heart conversations, that this started coming out. Fortunately, just about 2 witnesses had been examined, the remaining were there. And so this lawyer was able to thereafter take and change the line of cross-examination to bring in these aspects.
Okay.
And finally, when the final arguments were advanced in court, I was there in court on that day, even the learned magistrate had tears in his eyes, because what had happened was a colossal miscarriage of justice. Not only did the victims' parents not get justice because the wrong person was prosecuted, this doctor who was prosecuted also had lost so many years of his life and his reputation and his peace of mind, but somehow he mentioned that day that no one understood that pain till that particular day when the final arguments were advanced in court. He says, that is when I thought I had got my time in court. I wanted the court to understand this. The learned magistrate, of course, full credit to him, reproduced that in his judgment.
Okay.
While acquitting the doctor.
Okay.
And said, look, this is what has happened, and it's absolutely unfair. So this is where I say one could have simply said that the ingredients of the offense are not made out. 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the ingredients. Facts don't make out 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what is missing. Prosecution has failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt, etc., etc., etc. But every judge also somewhere, and perhaps all the time, needs to be sure that I am not necessarily passing a verdict, I am also doing justice here. And that's another crucial angle.
Okay.
So this was a case that was not simply on omissions and contradictions that we keep having all the time.
Not standard.
Exactly. It wasn't standard, it wasn't meant to be standard, it just went beyond, and where the actual case came up before the court, and that's how this particular doctor was exonerated honorably. And that is all that this gentleman wanted. He had accepted that this is what happened with me. He had accepted his fate, that I have lost my confidence. I no longer want to now treat patients, which was a collateral damage that happened as a result of this prosecution. But the key is he got the satisfaction and he made peace with the fact that somebody somewhere, not somewhere, in a criminal justice system was able to appreciate what he had gone through, being wrongly accused of this offense.
Somewhere it is like a human face of the judiciary.
Yes.
It's like a human face of
Yes.
other than law,
Yes.
legalities, rules, regulations.
Yes.
It's a human face of a.
Yes, and that is what is most required as the juggernaut of technology continues moving forward. Because technology is going to be pure logic, pure reasoning. And I think somewhere down the line, humanity might just be at stake. So for a lawyer to be a useful member of society, or to be a member of a society who brings about change within that society, his or her being an emotionally intelligent person is going to matter a lot. It's not that it doesn't exist anymore, but it needs to be tapped into, especially by younger lawyers. The older lawyers have imbibed it by virtue of their experience. But this is something which I think the younger generation of lawyers will need to, if they want to stand out, because emotional intelligence is what is going to help you to stand out, to feel the legal problem. It's like watching a movie in 4D, no? Rather than on a flat screen. When it's no longer just a legal case, it's a human problem that needs at least a mitigation, if not a resolution.
Okay.
See, so that's going to be the thing. Out of this also comes this whole thing of self-discipline, of mastering one's own emotions, of also being fair, for example, to the other side, understanding the what a concerned witness is going through at that point of time. A judge with a heavy board is bound to be, for example, a little
100%.
hassled,
Yeah,
short-tempered. If this is known to the lawyer, then they would at least know how to also, and I use this word a little crudely, handle the judge. But at least when I say this, how to behave at that point of time, how to conduct himself at that point of time, such that it best serves the interests of justice.
Okay.
So that is where the whole thing is going to be. According to me, that should be the focal point even of our universities. I am surprised that we really don't even have this as a course curriculum. So why are our law students only being taught about laws, and why are they only visiting courtrooms to see what happens? Why don't our universities bring this up and bring this angle of legal education, where we are looking at legal problems as not something that fits within an equation, but which is actually a problem within society that the lawyer is trying to remedy or fight for, a fight for justice, rather than simply a fight for getting a decision from a court of law.
I mean, what I am trying to gather, a case when it comes to you,
Yes.
it has, according to me now, understanding you, correct me if I am wrong, there are 2-3 divisions to it.
Yes.
Division number 1, the facts.
Yes.
Division number 2, the law position.
Yes.
And I think the division number 3 is what you are speaking, and that is that
Yes.
emotionally understanding the
Yes.
client's
Yes.
agony or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
It is something like that.
Yes. Yes.
That is emotional
Yes.
intelligence of a lawyer.
That is what is also going to help you get the best instructions out of the client. People are not really great communicators, especially in today's age when things can be compressed into 40 characters. Also, there is an information overload, if I can say this, because you are being hit by information on all sides. You don't get time to introspect in your daily life because you are always consuming content.
True. True.
When did you last sit at your window just looking at the rain? Doesn't happen anymore because we are filling our time and our days with something or the other to do.
So, do you mean to say that this concept of emotional intelligence
Yes.
would lead us
Yes.
to get the last of the information which is there with the client?
Yes. Yes.
The last
Yes.
information. We
Yes.
may have a bundle of information.
Yes.
But we need to go and travel up to the last
Yes.
position and say, okay, here where it ends.
Yes, where you know the case inside out so well that you could say as if you have lived through it. Imagine if you have that kind of a grip on your case, how effective you would be in court.
Correct.
Because then it becomes as if, and I continue to use this term as if, because you don't become, as I said, you do not identify with the client.
Correct.
That is wrong.
Correct.
Because your objectivity suffers.
Correct.
Right? But you go as near as you can to what happened. There are many times when you realize also, when a client is telling you facts, you realize there are missing links. Now those
Yes.
missing links would either have been because of trauma, or because the client doesn't trust you enough, or because the client thinks it's not important.
Correct.
Right? And or because the client feels ye bolunga to, I will sort of be in an embarrassing position.
Correct. It happens.
It happens. And so what happens then is that you don't really get the complete picture. If you learn to get under the skin of the client and therefore of the situation, you will start seeing those missing pieces, and because you would want to be, or you will be a good listener, you might be able to elicit from the client those things that were not told to you earlier.
Okay.
Some of those things sometimes then end up changing the course of a case or the legal advice that you give. That also matters, because if a certain skewed set of facts is given to you, your legal advice might just be faulty.
Okay. So somewhere these questions or which inputs which are given in chat GPTs and all.
Yes.
So there this particular aspect is missing.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
Correct?
It is bound to be missing.
Okay.
Because there is no limit to human ingenuity or to human ability to process emotions. Artificial intelligence cannot process emotions, it can only imitate them. And therein lies that fundamental difference. So you can't, even as a lawyer, you can't pretend to be interested in your clients, you can't pretend. You have to be real. You have to come across as being who you are, and the fact that you care about the client.
Correct.
I often get to hear this, that I don't feel, that my lawyer really cares. You can't be just a docket. Your client is not just a docket or a brief in your office.
Lack of proper audience given to the client by the
Yes,
lawyer.
absolutely. Not only that, lack of even communicating with the client as to what are the next steps forward. What will happen in court? What should the client expect? What will be the stages that this case will go through?
So these are somewhere components of
Yes.
emotionally intelligent
Because
lawyer.
the client is wants to know, but is either too scared to ask, or feels that the lawyer will know what to do. But if you have informed all this to your client, they are not in for a surprise, and then you actually end up becoming a great team during your trial or during your case. Not only that the fact that our cases take so much time to get disposed of, the client is not going to lose faith, he is not going to lose steam, his frustrations, there will be times when the client will be frustrated.
Yeah.
The other side lawyer did not come on last 3 dates, we just got adjournments, when fine, you need to address those issues as well.
Correct.
And not just by giving empty assurances, you need to understand from where they are coming from, you need to understand where that frustration is coming from. And that spurs you as a lawyer to do better towards a resolution of this case.
Okay.
Maybe on the next occasion you will start asking for costs. Maybe you will insist that no, my application should be heard. This can't go on like this. So there is a human, so in all the entire system, I feel somehow the litigant has got lost.
And this emotional intelligence will actually help in that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Where our legal justice system will be more responsive. To, not that it isn't now, but yes, a lot still needs to be done, that's my opinion, after being around in the profession for so long. So that's what I personally feel.
So what I am gathering is that an AI will give you the inputs, maybe the best of the inputs, but that vigor and eager to fight, that emotions, I think that AI may not give you.
Of course.
And there where your this particular concepts, I think, of emotional intelligence of a lawyer are going to play the role.
Absolutely.
That is what I feel.
Yes, absolutely. Because that motivation to excel and to do the best for your client and to ensure that the ends of justice are met, that can come only from you as an individual. And that is exactly what it all boils down to.
Okay.
Also, this is another important angle. So, I am reminded of one thing. Once I had sent a young lawyer to meet the client, and get instructions. Upon returning, he came back and said, "Sir, the client is an absolute idiot. I completely lost my mind, and at some stage I just lost her."
Okay.
So I understood two things. I said, one, you judge the client, which is wrong. You're not supposed to be judgmental. That's what a lawyer is not supposed to be. Number two, you chose not to listen. You were there, you were hearing, but you were not listening. And three, having made up your mind, anything and everything that you spoke to her after that was directed to leading her in that direction which would reinforce your beliefs about her,
Okay.
which you'd made up your mind. Now that again is what goes wrong, is because that's not the whole purpose or of that exercise of taking instructions from the client. So the first thing that you need to do is to be non-judgmental. Clients can say anything in front of you. It's obviously confidential information, we all know that. But the fact that you do not brand your client as somebody or something, that is more important, because that helps you to maintain your objectivity of the situation and to apply the law correctly to the facts of the case. So your personal biases you can't bring in, and again I see that happening a fair bit.
Okay. This emotional intelligence, there are some ingredients or some ingredients के ये
Yes.
factors है, ये ऐसे कुछ है,
So
something like that.
So these are typically, these are each factor. I think emotional intelligence is, you can't really pinpoint specific ones, but one, of course, as I said, was empathy. Then being able to, empathy will lead to being a better listener, will lead to better management of your own emotions, which in turn will lead you to manage the client's emotions properly, because every client is going to go through their highs and their lows during that journey of seeking and getting justice from a legal system. Then it's going to also lead to self-discipline, which also otherwise we have, but it will lead to that because now suddenly you are doing something for somebody, which also will result in greater happiness for a lawyer. Instead of simply saying that the system doesn't work, your innate desire to do the best that you can for your client is what will give you satisfaction, not the ultimate result that you get in a court of law. You don't win every case.
Yeah.
And you don't always succeed. But if you have done your best, if you have applied yourself, if you can put your hand to your heart and say, I couldn't have done better than this, then I think you have done what you were supposed to do within the legal framework.
Okay. So, are we going to face, are we facing or we may face problem like the artificial intelligence is bound to be, yes, it will be used, it will give us results also.
Yes.
But somewhere that human touch with your client, or maybe even the human touch with while arguing, because when you argue, law is one part of it.
Yes.
And there are certain things which are there in your mind which you have just received as an instruction, which are in the subconscious.
Yes.
They give you that push.
Yes.
So will that push go if we don't keep ourselves emotionally, intelligently connected with our client?
Yes, that will go, because as you rightly said, technology, artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, all this is a one-way street. It will just go ahead. You're not going backwards. There are courts in some other countries where they have decided to introduce artificial intelligence to argue simple traffic offences. You realize that obviates the necessity of having a lawyer over there. Now I understand these were simple traffic offences, but with the march of technology, it's a possibility that I would like to debate on. That if lawyers in the time to come don't bring in that human angle in their work, then quite a few of them will just go out of business.
Okay. Okay.
And that's where I think that whole thing is. Because your entire performance as a lawyer will depend upon that aspect, upon your maturity that you gain by inculcating these values in yourself, by being motivated enough to do the best for your client, by being non-judgmental, by applying the facts to a human emotion and not the other way around, which is what I think happens quite all too often. And so impressing upon everyone, all the stakeholders in this system, that the system exists for the human being and not the other way around.
Right.
I think that's where we have been struggling with at this point of time, and I think that's the angle that needs to be brought back. That's the focus that needs to be brought back into the system of justice administration.
Okay. Now I'll just like to ask you that
Sure.
supposing as AI used by lawyers, AI will also be used by the litigants.
Of course.
So
Yes.
tomorrow,
Yes.
a client comes to you
Yes.
who has already put his queries into AI,
Yes.
and he gives you that.
That happens.
How, in this particular situation, this concept of emotional intelligence has to be linked, because he has already come with the entire AI data.
Absolutely.
So how it will play in this aspect?
Well, I can tell you one thing. So, so this has happened. I think it's been happening with a lot of us. I'm sure it's been happening with you as well. To such an extent that I have a lawyer friend who had even put up a notice board, who had put up a notice in his office. If you've asked Google, don't come to me. Because what we find is people do their search engine searches, they gather the information, and then they actually seem to walk into a lawyer's office wanting to test the lawyer. Is the lawyer going to say the same thing that I found out from this particular search engine? No. So fortunately, as things stand today, AI goes hopelessly wrong on a lot of these things, simply because it's not developed enough.
It's maturing slowly.
It's not matured enough. Certain generative artificial intelligence softwares have been known to concoct and fabricate cases and citations. I think what some students used to do in their LLB exam, if they wanted to fill up pages and pages of answers, that's happened. So the information that you're effectively getting is not necessarily accurate. Remember one thing, this is machine learning. It is only gathering data. It depends on the accuracy of the data which is put up. The internet is a vast place. Nobody regulates it. Put whatever you feel like. You have people putting in articles that absolutely are legally wrong sometimes, but they are there.
Correct.
Machine intelligence picks this up and dishes it out to you. So yes, you have clients who have used these AI services and have come to the lawyer, but at the end of the day, your legal knowledge, how you have kept yourself abreast, and of course this whole thing of a human touch is what will help you to score over AI as of now. What the future does or what happens in future, I don't know. I'd like to see it, but as things stand, I think human beings would never become redundant, because no, I don't think that's going to be possible.
So basically, when we are trying to overview and trying to summarize the topic which we have been discussing,
Yes.
it seems that it is absolute. Of course, I am deriving conclusions from what you have said.
Yes.
That there has to be a human connect
Yes.
between the client and the lawyer.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
according to what you say, it is necessary.
It is necessary, and you could be a lawyer, you could be a solo practitioner, you could be in a firm, you could be in a small size firm, a big firm, you could be advising corporations, you could be advising, say, the government. But at the end of the day, the human touch is what is going to matter and should matter more. For us to really be able to effectively implement the legal justice system. It's not going to solve all your problems.
Yes.
Delays in the system cannot be solved by simply being human with your client and by being a good listener. But at least the client's frustration is going to be expressed in front of you, and at least you would be able to say some words or show them the path ahead, and then be able to ensure that when the client leaves your office, they are going back, if not entirely satisfied with the system, at least with the hope that they will get another day to fight and win.
So at least not going back with frustration.
Exactly.
If not with satisfaction,
absolutely.
Not at least frustration.
Yes.
Okay. Because I think if this kind of an emotional touch is there with your clients, is it so? It may so happen that you may argue the case, you may lose the case.
Of course.
But due to the efforts made by you, the human connect which you have with your client, are there chances that client may say, okay sir, fine, हार गए.
I have had this.
Rather than bomba bomb, sir, क्या हुआ, X, Y, Z, all that.
You're right. So it's like this. When you have handheld your client throughout that journey, two things happen. One is the client has seen you work. The client has seen that you have taken interest in his or her case. You would, in the course of your communication with the client, also have told the client that while I cannot guarantee, and no good lawyer ever guarantees anything except his own efforts, his own sincerity and his own dedication to his client's cause. So this you would have communicated to the client that the ultimate outcome of this case is not in my hands. I can only put forward my best foot for you. I can only present the case in the best possible manner I can. I will leave no stone unturned in my legal research. I will do everything that is humanly possible for me to do for you, including in some cases after orally arguing, I will also tender written arguments to the court. Beyond this, the client knows that you couldn't have done anything more than that. So yes, while there will be disappointment at the outcome of the case and there will be frustration, you as the lawyer have to have that maturity to be able to handle that and to also then tell them, don't worry, there is an appeal or there is a revision, there are superior courts that we can go to, and this is not the end of the road for you.
And this all happens because you have a good human connect with your client.
Yes. I was fortunate enough in one of my cases for a client to tell me after the arguments were completed, once we stepped out of the courtroom, and I distinctly remember that day because it was 31st of December. So it was New Year's. Mine was perhaps the last case to be heard that day in that particular court. All of us had gone beyond time, so it was somewhere about 6:30. Court staff, litigants, us, the policemen, everybody. But when my client came out, he just hugged me and started crying and said, I heard those arguments. I think I was heard by the court. I think the best possible effort was put, and I think beyond this, whatever may be the outcome of this case, I will accept it. I thought that was, for me, that was an earth-shattering moment, because at stake was this man's liberty. And for him to say that I will accept this, or for him to appreciate the fact that now whatever happens, I don't care, I think we've done our best. It's a different issue that yes, he was very honorably acquitted.
That was
a separate issue, but had he not been to hear this I think, I heard these words. I was fortunate enough to have heard these words, probably only because of that human connect.
Okay. Now, sir, as we come towards our conclusion,
yes,
I would like to request you to give an address our budding lawyers.
Yes.
As to how all this emotional intelligence they should have,
Yes,
so that it will help them in their practice.
right.
So before we conclude, I would like to say words, something like a
Sure.
guidance to our
To our
budding
young
lawyers,
ones, yes.
and more even to our law students.
I agree. Yes, yes. So, to the budding lawyers and to the law students, I'd say this. While you are worried about how your career will you succeed in the profession, will you make money, will you be famous, will you one day have a firm, you need to understand, or I think you should keep in mind, that at the heart of this entire system is your client and your client's problems. First. Second, empathizing with someone, allowing their emotions to come to the surface, allowing your emotions to come to the surface is not a sign of weakness. For some reason, I have always felt that our young people are told that you always have to be very stoic and not display any emotions of any kind. And I think that is wrong. Compassion is a strength, it's not a weakness. Feeling for your clients' problems will only spur you on. It will give you a couple of sleepless nights. It will give you bad moods. But this entire journey, as you go along, as you not lose your human touch, will make you and a better lawyer and motivate you. How will you do this? You need to learn to listen to people. Don't form impressions after the first 5 or 10 minutes. Keep your slate clean. Let everything come to an end, let the entire instructions come to an end, and then slowly start exploring. Even then, don't form opinions about your client or the case. Keep exploring, and I can promise you that the solutions will present them to you. The problem will become crystallized the way it should be, and you will know where you are supposed to research and what are the areas that you're supposed to look into.
Okay.
And that, I think, is what is required most at this point of time. Young lawyers and law students and budding lawyers should remember one thing, and I know this is the age of branding as well, where everyone and everything is trying to brand themselves. Don't ever forget that brands may rise and brands may fall, but reputations will last forever.
Okay.
So build a reputation by being empathetic with your client, by being human, and thereby that is what is going to make you a great lawyer. Success will come if you are great at your job. So success is always the end result. It's not something that you strive for. It's the cherry on your cake. What should really be appealing to you is that you used your knowledge and you solved not only a legal problem, but you provided succor to your client.
Okay.
That is important.
Sir, thank you very much for being our guest and being a very different and a niche topic which we talked today, which is required. It is absolutely required.
Yes.
But I hope all the audience who would hear this will know that there is a human connect between the client and the lawyer.
Yes.
Which
If it's
is
yes.
more required for that.
Yes.
So, sir, thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you so much.
And
it's my pleasure. It's my privilege. And
this-
even if this topic spurs a debate, I'm more than happy.
This is a small token from us to you.
Thank you so much. I am overwhelmed and thank you so much.